Hey everyone, welcome to another video. So in today's video, we're going to look at two stocks which are looking good and which might give some good returns in the coming days or coming months. So one stock is from the commodity space. Obviously, given that the commodity bull run is going on, I had to give one. So it's not really forcefully given, but it's one of my favorite stocks from the commodity space. It's also an F&O stock. The second stock is from the hospital space or the hospital sectors, like you have Narayana Health, Aster DM and Shalby and a lot of other players. So it's from that space. So these two stocks are looking good and we're going to discuss these two stocks today. So before we jump into the stocks itself, let me give you a quick overview of Nifty, where we are and which sector is looking good. A short 2 minutes before we jump into the stocks itself. Okay, so Nifty, kind of had finally a good week after many weeks, and it kind of closed, positive, and it also, kind of closed above that week's low. So the last low was 16,410, and we kind of closed above that low. But remember, we are still forming lower high, lower lows, which means the trend is still down, but there is some positivity in the market, right? So if you see, this trend is still down, and we need to close above 16,830 levels, and only then I see a confirmed bullish trend in the Indian markets. But for now, apart from this Nifty outlook, I also want to give you a outlook on this metal space, because this is one sector which is looking really hot and which might actually do well in the coming days. Also, relatively, this stock has been seeing some strong relative strength. So if you see relative strength, which I'll also make a separate video on this, the relative strength has been looking excellent and has made a new all-time high. And also CCI has again gone above 100, and this index is breaking out from a very strong consolidation on the weekly charts. So we had one of the highest closings last week and this week, and we are probably or potentially set to head higher in the metal space. And also, given that the commodity prices all just rising higher and higher, we might see this index and the stocks from this index heading higher. So that's the short outlook on Nifty and metal space. So if you do like my analysis, and if you do like the sector that I've picked, do let me know in the comment section. But before we jump into the stocks, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, so that we spread this educational channel to a lot of other people and a lot of other friends and colleagues. So without wasting much time, let's get into the stocks. The first stock today we're going to look at from the commodity space is NMDC. Most of you might have seen that in the start of the video, but that's the stock, and that is one of my favorite stocks in this sector, because it has such excellent fundamentals, but the stock is just not moving higher. And I feel that it's time for the stock now to head higher, especially given it's forming one of my favorite patterns. So let's not waste more time and let's get into NMDC. So NMDC is the first stock, and let's look at the technical analysis. So there are a few points I want to cover today, starting with the long-term trend breakout. I'm going to show you how I've been watching this stock, and I'm going to also tell you how you can do this. So this stock has been in a steady downtrend since 2008, right? It has been consistently going down, and then we had this kind of breakout here back in last year, right? So if you see, I'm just counting these points here. So this point, that point, and that point, and then we kind of had a descending triangle breakout back in 2021, right? So which is last year in March, we had a breakout, and then the stock went higher, and then it kind of retested perfectly on that breakout level. It formed a doji on the monthly charts, and now it's heading higher. A doji on a support is a very, very positive sign for a stock, which shows that the trend has kind of paused. So the downtrend kind of paused, and now it's probably set to reverse, right? And then since then, I've been tracking the stock. I've been posting the stock on Twitter. So if you're not following me on Twitter for live updates, then do follow me on Twitter. But that's the first point I wanted to cover. There was a long-term trend breakout in March 2021. The next thing is, this stock has been going down, and the strength of the stock was basically down, which means the stock was underperforming the markets. Since that top, it just kept going down, the latest strength, and now the strength is again heading higher. It's forming higher lows, and this latest strength is definitely looking good. And off late also, it is even on the daily charts, if you see, even there it's having some really good relative strength, and it has been outperforming the index for the last few weeks, and in fact for the last couple of months, right? And that's why the stock is in my scanner. And the next point that I want to talk about is this stock also reversed from a primary trend line. So I'm just going to remove all of the trend lines, and if you see, I'm just connecting this point and I'm just connecting these lines, right? So this is a trend line, and this is a primary trend line. By primary trend line, I mean I'm connecting the point from the lows of COVID, and it's reversed already once in December, and again it's reversed in Jan, and again in Feb it reversed, and now it's heading higher. So it's a very strong reversal, and that trend line is very, very important going forward. If we break the trend line, then the stock is heading lower. And now it's also forming an inverted head and shoulders pattern. Now, most of you know that this is one of my favorite patterns. And if you see here, this stock is forming a beautiful inverted head and shoulders pattern, right? And that's why I feel that this stock is potentially or is probably completing the sideways movement, and it is all set to head higher from this level. Once it breaks out the levels of 160, then this stock is definitely heading higher. With a high probability, I can say that, and we might not see the levels of 150 anymore in the future. Okay, so that's why the stock is in my scanner this week. A lot of strong technical reasons, but all we need is a closing on daily basis above 160. So you could buy the stock immediately above 160, but if it closes on the day above 160, then that's definitely a sign that this stock is heading higher. Now, the reason why I'm saying 160 is that line which I've drawn, and also previously we see twice the highest level was 159.6 here, and here the highest was 160.5, and now but the closing was 159.3, and then we again here around 160 was the level. So if you close above 160, which is a very good sign for the stock, then the stock is definitely heading higher from here. Now, don't take this and just put all your money in the stock. Definitely, that's not the way to do it. So if you see that this stock, closes above 160, then go ahead and buy it. But what is the stop loss for the stock? Now, if you're aggressive and if you're trading probably this via futures, which I don't recommend if you're a beginner, then the stop can be around 145 levels. But if you're trading via cash, or if you're a conservative investor, then definitely the stop loss should be around 130 levels. So with the 130, buy above 160, so that's a 30 point stop, and we're looking for targets of 200, which is the recent highs. And also then I'm looking at a level of, once we cross 200, then definitely we want to look for higher levels. So don't book your profits early enough, right? Don't just go and book once it reaches 200. We might also touch 300 in the coming months and years. Okay, so that's the technical analysis of NMDC. Now let's look at the fundamentals. Now, fundamentals, a lot of people have been saying this is a fundamentally good company, and definitely yes, and I'm with most of these people. So the market cap is around 46,000 crores. But the most important point to note here is that this stock is benefiting from the commodity bull run, because of which the sales has grown 122%, and here if you see the profit has grown up 175%. Now that's why the stock, it makes it really interesting for the stock, because it has excellent sales growth and excellent profit growth. Now the next thing that I want to look at is the high ROC and the ROE. Now that's in the high 20 levels or 30 levels, and the stock is trading at just a PE of 4. Now at least expect the stock to trade at least at a PE of 10, if not 30, at least half of its value, around 15 to 10 to 15 levels it should be trading, because it's a commodity stock. Probably it might not be highly overvalued because it's a cyclical stock, but I feel this commodity run is going to stay at least for a couple of years more, and this stock should definitely benefit. The next thing that I always look at is the EPS or the earnings per share, and earnings per share has definitely been on a very strong uptrend since that 2021 June quarter, and is trending really strong, while the stock has not been doing much. Right, now that's the next point I wanted to cover, and the final point that I wanted to cover is also the sales have been pretty good. And here if you see, the profits have been almost, it's doubling its profits since 2021 and 2022, and the profits have almost gone up almost 4,000 crores already. Okay, so that's something to note. But the last point I wanted to talk about today is the reserves. The reserves have gone up from 30,000 to 35,000 crores. That's more than a 10% increase, while the borrowings have come down and it is almost negligible, right? So that also makes it a very interesting stock, NMDC, from the commodity space. So if you did, if you already invested in NMDC, do let me know. But this is definitely fundamentally a very good stock. So even if you buy this at this point, the margin of safety is also pretty low. So you can is pretty high. So you can definitely buy the stock and keep a stop of 130. And we're looking for final targets of 300. And we'll ride the stop, trail the stop, and don't book profits at 200. Let's see how it behaves. And then I'll also post update on Twitter. So don't forget to follow me on Twitter. So the next stock that we're going to discuss today is another interesting stock from the hospital space. Okay, that's Narayana Health, and this company has also been posting excellent profits and sales in the last couple of quarters, and that's one of the reasons why I'm recommending the stock today. And also it looks like if this stock breaks out from the pattern that I'm going to show you today, then we're looking at a quick returns of 20-30% in the short term, medium term, and probably 100% returns in the long term. Okay, so that's why I'm going to cover this stock today. Let's look at Narayana Health. So as always, let's look at the technicals first. So Narayana Health. By the way, if you don't know how to use TradingView, there is a video I did on TradingView, so you have to go and check this video out. It's there. The link is in the top right corner, so do check it out on the description as well. So the first thing that I want to look at Narayana Health is, as always I say, do a multi-time frame analysis. Go to the monthly charts and first see what's happened to this stock. So this stock, since the IPO was listed, it went sideways for quite some time, and then you see there was this nice breakout back in November 2020. Now the stock doesn't have much of the number of stocks traded publicly is not high, and so the volumes might not be that great like how we wanted to be in a breakout. So also keep that in mind, and don't say don't have this myth that you really need a high volume breakout for some stocks. Okay, you need to also see what is available stocks in the market, and depending on that you have to take a call. So long-term trend breakout in November 2020, and then it did a fast retest in March 2021, right? So it did complete retest, and then the stock started heading higher from there. So since then the stock has been trending up nice, slowly but steadily. It has been going sideways of late, right? You see this 5 months sideways, 5 months of sideways, but off late the stock is picking momentum, right? It's just going one way up. So every month there's a dip below, but then the stock heads higher and it closes higher, and that shows that the stock is not willing to go down even in this weak market. The markets have been down since the last few months, but this stock is not down. So that's why I'm also interested in the stock. The next thing that I want to look in the stock is this channel that I'm going to draw and show you. So you can use this nice tool here in TradingView. Connect this point, connect those points there. I'm on the lock chart time frame, and you just drag this and you connect the recent top there, right? So this point there, and you are going to get a beautiful long-term parallel channel, right? So since that covered lows here, I'm cutting that low, and then I'm cutting this point here, and I see this beautiful long-term channel. Right now the stock is trending or chugging along this channel, right? If you see, it's just going along this channel, and recently it also reversed from this channel back in Feb or last month, and that's going to be a stop for the stock. 600 is the low, and I don't want the stock to go below 600, because if it goes below 600 and if it closes, especially on a weekly basis, below closing 600, then definitely the stock is going to go sideways for some time. Okay, now note this parallel channel, and this parallel channel is a beautiful tool in technical analysis to know where the stock is trending, and that's why I'm recommending the stock. Okay, because it's just close to the channel and I'm expecting good move. Now I'm connecting again this point here, and I'm dragging this line there, to show you that the stock also is tightening, right? So there's this massive move, then there's another move there, there's a move there, and this is slowly this move down is getting smaller and smaller. So that's the first dip there. The second dip is there, this is the second dip, and then you have the next dip over here. So it's not really a dip, but I'm just showing you the contraction in the volatility, or the contraction in the movement of the stock. So this contraction is becoming smaller and smaller. Right now this shows that the stock is probably setting up to expand above this level. So above 725, this stock is probably going to break out, and it's going to probably head towards the levels of 1200 levels, which I am talking about a long-term target, but needs to break out above this zone. There's also potential that this stock might go sideways for some time and break down as well. So that's why we have a stop around 600 levels. So you want to note that this point in particular, because if you're investing in the stock, you need to understand also what the stock is doing. Okay, the next point is that this stock has been in a very strong uptrend compared to the Nifty, and if you see relative strength, it's just been going higher and higher. Because I wish the stock was doing the same thing. Hopefully the stock will do that in the coming months and the coming weeks. Okay, so that's a strong relative strength, and yeah, finally we need a breakout above 725 for targets of 1200. So about 25, we can invest even right now in the stock with the stop at 600, but a closing above 725 is what gives me a lot of conviction. And also this week's candle has been really good candle after a lot of dojis and indecisiveness in the stock. Okay, so that's the technical analysis. Buy current market price or above 725 with a stop around 600 for targets of 1200 in the long term. Okay, so that's the technical analysis of Narayana Health. By the way, if you are really finding this technical analysis too much to understand, or if you find it too difficult, you need to watch my videos that I've been doing, and they're really good and it'll help you understand technical analysis. Or you can read some books, like Technical Analysis by Edwards and Maggie is a really good book, or by Martin Pring is also a very good book that you can refer to learn and understand technical analysis. So the last thing that I wanted to cover today is the fundamental analysis of Narayana Health. So let's take a look at it. And so again, as I always say, you need to first check for the ROC and ROE. But in this case, if you see it's at 1.62 and minus 1.7. Now this is the last year's FY21 ROE, ROC and ROE. But if you take this year's, then this is around 20%, which is why this makes this stock really interesting. And it's trading at a 42 PE currently, and I find that this might trade even at a higher PE going forward. And this stock also has a very high sales growth of 44% and a profit of 650%. Now that's because of the COVID, the base numbers were low, and that's why it's showing a 650%. But otherwise also it's a pretty good number, and we look at that shortly. Okay, so again, a high ROC, high sales and profit growth. And as always, I look at the EPS or the earnings per share. And if you look at the earnings per share, prior to the COVID lows, this was the earnings per share, and now the earnings per share has reached almost a high of 16.69. Or even here, if you see, it's around 13.91, right? So you might see these numbers here. So right now P is 46, EPS is 13.91. So increasing EPS is a very good thing for a stock, and finally the stock price aligns to the EPS. Okay, that's what happens eventually. Looking at the numbers, operational numbers, quarterly numbers, if you see, the numbers have been high, almost around 800 crores. Profit margin has been around 17-18% mark. And also net profit has been touching that 100 crore mark. And if you look at these numbers, even if you consider 2020, that's almost, and this year around additional 500 crores of profit, around a 15% increase in sales. And also here PAT, if you see, it's almost 200 crores increase. So it's more than a double, almost triple the profits that we had in 2020. If you compare 2021, that's why you have this high growth in profits, right? So but even compared to 2020, it looks like a decent profit, in fact an excellent profit growth, and I feel that this stock might continue to do well going forward. Reserves have been pretty high. Debt has come down marginally, but the debt has been around 800 crore mark of late. And it's not really concerning for me because this company has also good profits, and 300 crore profit is really good. And the last thing I want to show you is the public holding for this company. The number of shares available for purchasing in the open market is pretty less, because most of the shares are held by FIIs, DIs and promoters, and public hold is 5.6% shares. Now that's a pretty low number, and that's why I feel this stock is not going down, because every stock is held by the FIIs, DIs and promoters, and people want to buy the stock, and that's why the stock is heading higher. So that's the fundamental analysis of Narayana Health, and it's again an excellent stock to be invested in. So these stocks could be also your portfolio stocks, and definitely keep a stop loss at least on a weekly closing basis, if not daily closing basis, and ensure that you don't allocate, don't go aggressive in this stock. Don't allocate 25% of your capital, 35% of your capital, unless you know technical analysis. Go with 5% or maximum 10% of your capital in these stocks. Try to invest in them and see if it makes money. Again, before we drop off, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends and colleagues. I'll see you in another video. Until then, take care, stay safe and trade safe. Bye bye.